Here is your in-depth psychology-based script, written to match your tone, structure, and emotional exploration style. Psychology of why some people fear being truly happy. Happiness is something most people say they want. It's written into goals, whispered in late-night hopes, and imagined in future versions of ourselves where everything finally feels okay. Yet, for many people, happiness is not something they easily embrace. Instead, it feels unfamiliar, unstable, even dangerous. When moments of joy arrive, they are often followed by anxiety, doubt, or an urge to pull back. It can feel safer to remain emotionally guarded than to fully allow yourself to feel good. This fear of being truly happy may seem confusing on the surface, but beneath it lies a complex psychological story shaped by past experiences, emotional conditioning, and deeply rooted beliefs about safety and worth. For many individuals, this fear begins early in life. Childhood is where we first learn what emotions are allowed, rewarded, or discouraged. In homes where love was inconsistent, unpredictable, or conditional, children quickly learned that feeling good was temporary. Moments of happiness were often followed by disappointment, conflict, or loss. Over time, the nervous system begins to associate joy with danger. When something good happens, the body prepares for something bad to follow. This creates an emotional pattern where happiness is no longer experienced as peaceful, but as a warning sign that pain may be coming next. Some children grow up in environments where emotional expression was minimized or dismissed. They were told not to get too excited, not to get their hopes up. While these messages may have been intended as protection, they quietly taught the child that optimism leads to disappointment, that expecting happiness leads to vulnerability. So they learned to lower their emotional expectations, believing that staying neutral or slightly pessimistic would protect them from heartbreak. Others grew up in households where chaos, instability, addiction, or emotional neglect were present. In these environments, children learned to be hyper-aware of potential threats. Their focus became survival, not pleasure. When life feels unpredictable, joy becomes secondary to safety. As adults, these individuals may feel uncomfortable when things are going well. Their nervous system is conditioned to scan for danger, even in moments of peace. Calm feels unfamiliar. Stability feels suspicious. Happiness feels fragile. Trauma also plays a powerful role in shaping fear around happiness. When someone has experienced significant loss, betrayal, abuse, or sudden change, their brain learns that good moments can disappear without warning. This creates emotional hypervigilance. The person may unconsciously believe, if I don't get too happy, it won't hurt as much when things fall apart. This is not weakness. It is a survival strategy that once protected them from overwhelming pain. Over time, this strategy becomes automatic. When something positive happens, a new relationship, a career opportunity, a moment of deep connection, the mind begins to search for flaws. Doubts appear. Worries grow louder. The person may start emotionally withdrawing, sabotaging the situation, or convincing themselves that it won't last. Not because they don't want happiness, but because their nervous system has learned to associate happiness with loss. Another powerful factor is self-worth. Many people who fear happiness carry a quiet belief that they do not deserve it. This belief often develops in childhood through criticism, neglect, emotional invalidation, or being made to feel too much or not enough. When a child grows up feeling unseen or unvalued, they may internalize the idea that love, success, and joy are meant for others, not for them. As adults, these individuals may work hard, care deeply, and show up for others, yet still feel uncomfortable receiving good things. Compliments feel awkward. Achievements feel undeserved. Love feels temporary. Happiness feels borrowed. There is often a constant fear of being found out, as if someone will eventually realize they are not worthy of the life they have. This creates an emotional contradiction. On one hand, they long for fulfillment and connection. On the other, they feel anxious when they get close to it. They may push opportunities away, stay in unhealthy relationships, settle for less, or self-sabotage at critical moments, not because they want to fail, but because failure feels more familiar than success. Cultural and social conditioning also influence how people relate to happiness. In some environments, suffering is normalized, struggle is praised, rest is seen as laziness, emotional expression is viewed as weakness. People raised in these cultures often learn that happiness must be earned through exhaustion, that joy should be delayed, that enjoying life without constant productivity is selfish. This mindset creates guilt around pleasure. When someone finally relaxes, celebrates, or feels content, they may feel uncomfortable, as if they are doing something wrong, as if they should be working harder, as if they do not deserve ease. Over time, this internalized pressure makes happiness feel irresponsible rather than healthy. Fear of loss is another major contributor. When someone loves deeply, cares deeply, or becomes emotionally invested, they also become vulnerable to pain. For people who have experienced abandonment, rejection, or emotional instability, vulnerability feels dangerous. Happiness often requires emotional openness, and emotional openness requires risk. So instead of fully opening their hearts, some people choose emotional distance. They keep parts of themselves guarded. They avoid deep attachment. They downplay their joy. They maintain emotional control. This gives them a sense of safety, but it also limits their capacity for genuine fulfillment. This pattern often shows up in relationships. Someone may crave intimacy, but panic when it becomes real. They may pull away when things feel stable. They may create conflict when things are peaceful. They may feel bored in healthy relationships because chaos feels more familiar than calm. Their nervous system equates intensity with connection, even when that intensity is unhealthy. In daily life, fear of happiness can appear in subtle ways: procrastinating on goals, avoiding opportunities, downplaying achievements, staying busy to avoid emotional awareness, distracting oneself instead of being present, finding reasons why good moments don't count, preparing mentally for disappointment even during joyful experiences. Many people who struggle with this are highly self-aware and emotionally intelligent. They often care deeply about others. They are empathetic, thoughtful, and reflective, but they are harsher with themselves than anyone else. They minimize their own needs. They prioritize others' comfort. They rarely allow themselves to rest in their own joy. The nervous system plays a central role in this process. When someone has lived in chronic stress, their body becomes accustomed to elevated cortisol and adrenaline levels. Calm and happiness can feel unfamiliar to their system. In extreme cases, peace can feel uncomfortable. The body may interpret relaxation as unsafe because it is not used to it. This is why some people feel anxious when life becomes stable, why they feel restless when things are going well, why they unconsciously create problems when there are none. Their system is seeking what it knows, not what is healthy, but what is familiar. Healing this pattern does not happen overnight. It begins with awareness, recognizing that fear of happiness is not a flaw, but a learned response, a protective mechanism developed in response to past pain. It means understanding that your hesitation toward joy is not weakness. It is evidence of how deeply you have learned to survive. The next step is learning to gently challenge these patterns, allowing yourself to notice when you pull away from good moments, when you minimize your feelings, when you expect disappointment. Instead of judging yourself, you begin to ask, what am I protecting myself from right now? What am I afraid will happen if I let myself enjoy this? Slowly, you can practice staying present with positive experiences, letting them exist without immediately analyzing them, allowing yourself to feel gratitude without guilt, accepting compliments without deflection, celebrating small wins without minimizing them. These moments retrain your nervous system to associate happiness with safety. Self-compassion is essential in this process. Many people try to fix themselves through self-criticism, but healing requires gentleness. It requires recognizing that your fear developed for a reason, that it once helped you survive, that it deserves understanding, not punishment. Building emotional safety also involves creating supportive relationships. Being around people who respect your boundaries, validate your feelings, and encourage your growth helps your system learn that connection does not always lead to pain. Over time, consistent positive experiences slowly rewrite old emotional scripts. Therapy, journaling, mindfulness, and emotional education can also support this journey. They help you identify unconscious beliefs, process unresolved grief, and develop healthier emotional patterns. They give you tools to regulate your nervous system and respond to life with intention rather than fear. Most importantly, healing involves redefining what happiness means to you. It does not have to be constant excitement or perfect circumstances. True happiness is often quiet. It is safety. It is self-acceptance. It is feeling at home in your own mind. It is allowing yourself to experience life without constant self-protection. You are not broken for fearing happiness. You are human. You adapted to your environment. You learned to survive. Now, you are learning to live. You deserve joy that does not come with anxiety. You deserve peace that does not feel temporary. You deserve a life where you do not have to brace yourself for loss every time something good happens. And little by little, through patience, awareness, and compassion, you can teach yourself that happiness is not dangerous. It is not something to run from. It is something you are allowed to stay with. You are allowed to feel good. You are allowed to feel safe in joy. You are allowed to build a life that feels emotionally secure, meaningful, and whole. And no matter how long it takes, that healing journey is always worth taking.